Russia's idea of the special military operation, which started February 24th, 2022, was that Ukraine would rush back to the negotiating table. They were trying to scare the wits out of Ukraine, and they succeeded because within about a week of the operation, Zelensky started to say publicly, we could be neutral. We could be neutral. And in early March 2022, the Ukrainians actually approached the Russians and said, we could negotiate. And the Russians were surprised, and they said, well, what do you mean? And the Ukrainians produced a document. The document, I know, went to the Russian leadership, and the Russian leadership said, okay, that's a basis for negotiating. And that began what is now called the Istanbul Process. The Turks said, we will mediate. There were some other informal mediators like the then Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett. But the negotiations took place from early March through mid-April. On March 28th, Russia and Ukraine issued a joint communique saying we're getting to a solution. The basis of the solution at the time was essentially Ukraine declaring permanent neutrality and a security agreement that was undefined how it would work exactly.
Okay. No guarantees by any third countries or anything?
There were many ideas, and the Ukrainians had some, and the Russians had others. But the main one that Russia said is, we want a role in the security guarantees, and Ukraine said no. And my view is rather straightforward, which is that it should be in the UN Security Council, which gives Russia a role, the United States a role, France and Britain, China, and so on.
And everybody.
But international law, as we discussed. They worked on all of the different aspects of the negotiation up through April 15, and they tabled a draft document. And that document can be found online. For example, the New York Times posted it at one point, and it shows in red what the Russians still object to, and in another what the Ukrainians object to. But basically, it's a nearly completed document.